There seems to be something disturbing going on in the American government. Over the last 2 decades, laws that have gone into effect seem to benefit the rich and the wealthy, while the middle class and the poor seem to be losing control of decisions being made in Washington, D.C. Every 4 years, millions of Americans vote for a new president, House, and Senate representatives. We send these representatives to represent certain parts of the country to address issues and concerns that require change. But it seems once these representatives hit Washington, D.C., something changes.
71-year-old Randy Duke Cunningham is a former Navy pilot and distinguished war veteran. His 15 years in Congress ended abruptly after he was convicted of conspiracy to commit bribery, mail and wire fraud, and tax evasion. He accepted more than $2 million in bribes from defense contractors, earning him the title of the most corrupt congressman in America.
New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez guilty on all counts in his federal criminal trial. The verdict just coming in just minutes ago. It comes, of course, after he stood trial for several weeks here on corruption charges, including bribery, acting as a foreign agent for Egypt, and obstruction of justice.
And Henry Cuellar and his wife are indicted over their alleged ties to Azerbaijan. Court documents say the couple accepted nearly $600,000 in bribes in exchange for advancing the interests of that Middle Eastern country.
Instead of addressing the people's agenda, it seems like the agenda of corporation donors and lobbyists seem to be overshadowing the wants and needs of the American people. Some of these representatives have been under attack by their constituents for not doing what they were voted to do under the Trump administration. Representatives have been serving the president's agenda instead of the people's agenda. Lately, some of these representatives have been under attack by their constituents for not doing what they were voted to do under the Trump administration. Representatives have been serving the president's agenda instead of the people's agenda. On July 31st, 2025, Wisconsin GOP Representative Brian Steele was bombarded at a town hall by his constituents for support of the big beautiful bill that they opposed and in support of mass ICE agents arresting and deporting illegal immigrants. Let's have a listen.
So disappointed in how you represent us as the citizens of Walworth County.
I don't think you're the right fit for us anymore. I just think it's time to go. You just don't relate to most of us anymore, and you got to know when to step down.
And on August 4th, 2025, Nebraska GOP Representative Mike Flood was met by very angry constituents due to his vote on Trump's big beautiful bill that would increase the deficit. Let's have a listen of that too.
Given your full-throated support of the bill, whatever we call it, and your view of the facts, I'd like to know how you expect to pay back all of this debt that is going to be layered onto our grandchildren because we're not willing to make our rich part of our society pay their fair share.
There seems to be a growing trend in Washington, D.C. Are representatives being coerced by money once they arrive in Washington, D.C.? Or are they already rich from the start and have already been coerced before reaching the Capitol? So why can't everyday Americans stop the rich and wealthy influence on the government? Since the inception of the United States, the very first president, George Washington, was the richest man in the country at the time. For some reason or another, Americans had embraced the rich leaders of the country. Since then, there were many scandals due to the role of money in the halls of the government. In 1917, Woodrow Wilson recruited the Wolf of Wall Street at the time, Bernard Baruch, who led the World Industry Board prior to World War I, hired tycoon French to help. A mining executive in London named Herbert Hoover was also recruited to lead humanitarian war relief. By 1929, seeing wealthy office holders had become routine in federal government. During the Great Depression, Herbert Hoover, now in the driver's seat as president, hired a Chicago banker named Charles Dawes. Charles, who was the First Nation's first comptroller of currency under President McKinley, would lead a Reconstruction Finance Corporation, or RFC, to secure bailout funds to sinking banks and railroads. In 1932, Dawes resigned and went back home to address his sinking bank, and later his bank was listed as a recipient of the largest loan from the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. Public outcry ruined the RFC and Hoover's reputation. It wasn't until 1960 that President John F. Kennedy called for a new standard that stated no officer or employee of the executive branch shall use his official position for financial profit or personal gain. As a result, new criminal statutes that covered conflict of interest and bribery were put into law. You would have thought that the end of rich and wealthy corruption in the halls of Congress was over, but something more sinister was ready to take aim at the U.S. government. The right to petition is a First Amendment right that prohibits Congress from impeding the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. Today, the right to petition is called lobbying and is no longer used to redress grievances but to influence. Rich corporations' special interests hire professional advocates to argue specific legislation and decision-making bodies from the State General Assembly to Congress. These advocates target public officials with political messages using TV, social media, and billboards, but the biggest activity some consider bribery is campaign donations with favors, also known as quid pro quo. On December 6, 2024, the Washington Post reported that Elon Musk had donated $277 million to the Trump campaign and Trump Republican loyalists. After Trump won the election, Elon Musk was tapped by Trump to head the Department of Government Efficiency, where thousands of jobs and departments were eliminated. We can only assume Elon Musk, in good faith, didn't want the country to go broke. On July 4, 2025, President Donald J. Trump signed a bill known as the Big Beautiful Bill into law that increased the national debt by $3.9 trillion according to the Congressional Budget Office, better known as the CBO. On June 3, 2025, prior to the bill signing, Elon Musk blasted the Big Beautiful Bill as a disgusting abomination. After the Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law, according to CBS News, Elon Musk threatened to create a third political party called the American Party. This goes to show that even though you lobby and make campaign donations, that you always don't get what you want. Still, corporation and special interest spends millions every year trying. In the 2004 election, an organization called Citizens United tried using the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, BCRA, to block the release of Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, which was critical of the Bush administration. In response to the ruling, Citizens United decided to produce a documentary, Celsius 4111, which was highly critical of both Fahrenheit 9/11 and the 2004 Democratic presidential nominee John Kerry. The FEC blocked them, stating the film was political advertisement and could not be aired 30 days before a general election, and based on the fact they were not a commercial filmmaker. After the ruling, Citizens United sought to establish itself as a commercial filmmaker prior to the 2008 election. Citizens United was planning to release 3 television commercials during the 2008 election, promoting the political documentary Hillary the Movie, which is going to be aired on DirecTV. The FEC said this plan was in violation of BCRA, including Section 203, which is defined as electioneering communication as a broadcast, cable, or satellite communication that mentions the candidate within 60 days of a general election or 30 days before a primary. The FEC prohibited the film from being broadcasted, and Citizens United challenged this determination in court. This was the beginning of the end of the American people's power with the deciding elected officials and decisions on laws through the candidate they vote for. This not only changed campaign finance laws, it changed the political system forever. The Supreme Court then overturned a ruling on March 27, 1990, when Supreme Court ruled that Michigan state law prohibiting independent expenditures by corporation was constitutional. As a result, the American people no longer have control as constituents of candidates that were elected, because lobbyists and corporations can now use blackmail on candidates in the form of threatening ads or denying campaign funding if they vote a certain way on laws. Lobbyists and corporate donors have just about completely taken over power of the government just by being donors for political parties. For example, in the 2024 election, after Joe Biden had a poor performance on the debate stage against Donald Trump, Democratic donors threatened to pull campaign funding if President Biden didn't drop out of the race. Over $100 million of campaign funds were raised after Kamala Harris took his place as Democratic presidential nominee. To put more fuel on the fire, lobbyists, corporations, special interests have the means to anonymously donate unlimited amount of money by using nonprofit organizations to donate the money. Nonprofit organizations do not have to disclose their donors, so there's no way to find out where the money comes from. This term for donation practice is called dark money. Dark money and donors in government elections can lead to something more unsettling, which would be foreign influence. If foreign influence is executed via dark money avenues, now you could be looking at a national security issue because of the illegality of foreign donations in U.S. elections. So what does this all mean for the average middle class and poor American? Let's control to stop the laws that don't benefit the average American but benefit the rich and wealthy. Wealthy individual and corporation often dominate lobbying efforts, which can skew policy outcomes in their favor, impeding the interests of average Americans. For instance, pharmaceutical industry lobbying has contributed to high drug prices and influenced healthcare policy, often not serving public health needs. The imbalance occurs because public interest groups often lack the financial resources to compete. In 2015, Oxfam, a humanitarian organization started in Oxford, England, predicted a widening wealth gap and points a finger at lobbying for much of the wealth accumulation at the top. The world's wealthiest 1% is likely to control over 50% of global wealth by 2016, Oxfam stated. So what can the average American do to combat wealthy pockets of lobbyists? Number 1 would be to ban dark money groups. Number 2, enforce laws requiring full disclosure of campaign contributions and lobbying activities. This helps voters understand who's funding the candidates and influencing policies. Number 3, implement stricter limits on how much individuals and corporations can contribute to political campaigns. And last, introduce public financing for campaigns to reduce reliance on wealthy donors. This can empower candidates who do not have access to large funds. So what is your opinion about lobbying in the United States government? I'd love to hear from you. Oh, in my opinion on this, I think that lobbying law should go back to its roots, the right to petition the government for redress of grievances only. Till next time.